Greater Sandton and beyond. Get ready for the Sandton Times Hour
with your host,
Alexander.
Ladies and gentlemen, everyone between and beyond, welcome to the Sandton Times Hour. It's edition 213. It's week 38 of 2025. Good to have you back listening if you're a regular listener of the Sandton Times Hour. But if you are a new listener, let's roll out the red carpet, take a stroll down there, and join us for the next hour as we talk about all things Sandton and beyond. If you're tuning in from across Johannesburg, Pretoria, Gauteng, South Africa as a whole, anywhere and everywhere else in the world, if it's online or on air, wherever you are, I'm happy to report that all is well in Sandton land. For those regular listeners, they know that I'm joined by Vincenzo behind the mixing desk to make sure everything sounds as it should. And yeah, Vincenzo, another busy week of work for all of us. I ended up moderating 2 conferences in Johannesburg and Cape Town this past week for a logistics technology company. And you know what I love about this work is that it's so interesting. I get to learn about new industries, new technologies, new developments. This one was particularly interesting, and I said to the guys, I want to actually see if we can get them in for an interview to chat about some of the data and the trends that they have about driver behavior. So these guys developed technology that looks after some of the courier businesses, delivery trucks, big trucks that are moving stuff from one side of South Africa to the other side, and some of the things that are happening to prevent the loss of life on the road due to fatigue, due to distraction, due to all kinds of other things. So keep an eye out for that. We're going to get them on the Sandton Times Hour, chat to them about that, because I think it is so interesting for all of us to see what is happening in that space. Then yes, it is a busy time of the year for events. I see my diary filling up rapidly, and before you know it, it'll be December, and we'll be looking back thinking, what a marathon it's been. But I did have a chance to squeeze in a dinner at Aurum Restaurant. That's the one at the Leonardo, and they've launched their new summer menu, and I must tell you, it's fabulous. It really is fabulous. The winter menu was great. This is equally as fantastic. They've introduced some new meals and some new dishes, but I must tell you, they have a great date night menu on a Tuesday. So if you're looking for a place to go on date night, or you just don't feel like cooking, or you just, I don't know, find an excuse, go check out their date night. Well priced, some fantastic dishes, and something special to look forward to. If you want to try that. Chef Michelle Biondi and her team, they've served up some really winning dishes on the summer menu, and something to look forward to in the coming weeks. So what are we chatting about this week on the Sandton Times Hour? Well, in a bit, I'll be chatting to one of South Africa's most successful chefs about his latest collaboration with the Palace of the Lost City. I'd alluded to it on a previous edition of the Sandton Times Hour. Here it is. Take a listen. Then I'll be catching up on a few travel notes right after that from a trip I did to Cape Town a few weeks ago. And then, as always, we have our regular entertainment commentator to chat about all things entertainment as we look at what's at the cinemas this week. And finally, we take a look at all things equestrian as a major competition comes to Sandton, and you won't want to miss this. All this and more coming up in the next hour. And as always, I'd like to hear from you. So if you want to get in touch, send through your questions, comments, or feedback on email, editor@sandtontimes.co.za. You can connect on social media at Sandton Times, or hop onto the website www.sandtontimes.co.za, and save the WhatsApp line, the Sandton Times WhatsApp line, 084 Sandton. That's 084 726 3866. 084 726 3866. And finally, if you're not part of the podcast community, be sure to subscribe to the Sandton Times Hour on your favorite podcast platform. You can choose from a myriad of them. I think we're pretty much on every possible podcast platform you can imagine, including Apple, Spotify, Amazon, AfroPods, Podcast Party, and so many more. And be sure to like, share, and subscribe.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
From Paris to the Pilanesberg, he's South Africa's first Michelin-starred chef and a master of storytelling through food. And now Jan Hendrik van der Westhuizen is bringing his signature Jan touch to one of the country's most iconic destinations, the Palace of the Lost City. This new partnership reimagines the hotel's legendary hospitality by spotlighting South Africa's forgotten ingredients, from heirloom corn to amaranth and cowpea, transforming them into dishes fit for royalty. we hope. It's a celebration of heritage, sustainability, and pure culinary magic set against the grandeur of Sol Kerzner's original dream. In a second, I'm joined by Jan Hendrik himself to talk about this exciting new collaboration, the revival of the Crystal Court dining experience, and now he's turning the palace into a 7-star feast for all the senses. And Jan Hendrik, it's great to have you on the Sandton Times Hour.
Thank you, Alex. Great being on here.
Jan, tell us a little bit more about this collaboration with the palace. I mean, with someone with a global reputation that you've now built up, what drew you to this opportunity?
I like, first of all, the way you say we hope it's going to transfer the food into royalty. And I think that's, as a child, I used to go there quite often. So I have so many fond memories of that typical Bilansburg sunburn that you get nowhere else in the world. And to me, it felt like a massive dream world. It transported me from something, as from the farm, and it was just magical. The palace was always out of reach, out of boundaries for me, so I could never go there. And I think the moment we got in touch with them, and I went there it was some sort of a conference, a culinary conference, and I was just blown away by this building, and that it's still all there, and that it's kind of. And you can see these people are so ready for it. They just want to innovate. And we started a conversation, and we said, let's start small. We'll start with a breakfast, which is 600 people per seating. So it's not that small. I felt like there was something that's lost, and it's an iconic destination in South Africa. If you ask people, and I always ask guests at Jan in France, where are you going? And then at least 60% would say, oh, we're going to Sun City? And I'm like, no way. So it is a big thing for our country. I don't think we realize that. And to collab on that, to bring it back to life, that's really, really exciting.
I must say, when I first heard about it, I thought, what a great fit. Because like you say, it is such an iconic destination. I think it was built at a cost of 5 billion rand in today's terms, if we adjusted for inflation, which is an unthinkable project in 2025. And, you often go onto the internet and you type in things like Palace of the Lost City, and you'll see Google Trends will have searches coming from the United States where people are saying, is that place in Blended, that's that famous Adam Sandler movie, is that a real place? Does that place actually exist, or was that just built for the movie? And it does have this sort of very sort of, stuff that you only see sort of in Europe or somewhere else. And it is sort of our own very sort of palace for South Africa. And then when you walk into the buffet in the morning, I mean, I think at one point it was considered to be the biggest breakfast buffet in Africa. And it needed that zhuzh. It needed some sort of upliftment, because sometimes if you keep doing the same thing really well, it loses its spark. And then when I walked in, I think it was earlier this year, I'd seen that they've brought in some of the heirloom corn, and I thought, oh, this is interesting. I wonder what they're doing here. Obviously, it all got revealed when they announced that you were doing this lost ingredients menu. Why was it important to bring back a spotlight to these, let's call them ancient ingredients as well?
Food is concept to me, and I studied fine arts and applied design, and I think that's a real big reason why we do what we do. It's not because we just feed people and we want to make money. It's really about leaving a message. It's about a high amount of thinking involved. It's sensory. It's a combination of so many things between heritage, memory, the essentials, the senses. So you can't just go in and redo a breakfast buffet. What are you going to do? Are you going to add more eggs, or are you going to I don't know, do you crisp the bacon differently? Surely you can up the quality, but it needed a story. And it took months for me to get to this journey where we found it's the lost city. There must be things that's lost at the city, okay? And we just went into the Bilansburg, closer to home. And then we started finding that there's actually so many lost ingredients in our country. And we want to revive these indigenous ingredients. We want to celebrate them again by showing different cooking techniques, placing them back at the heart of the plate. So really making sure that they're not going missing, like so many of our, game and those things. So it's a no-brainer, really. It changes every 6 months. We're currently on maize. The next one will be soon revealed. So it also keeps people educated, but it keeps them intrigued. So they'll come back for the next one, and we'll do a massive installation for the next one. We'll show you what a jumalo is, or gosh, there's so many. The bambara ground nut. So we'll show you what cowpeas are, and you'll go like, oh wait, I remember this. Like my gran used to do this or cook this for me. Yeah, I think so. For me, it's more about the concept, and that there's a story now again with the food and the palace. It's not just I'm going for yogurt and fruit, because that you can find anywhere in the world.
I agree with you. And also, I think it's quite nice, this contrast between very humble ingredients set in a very opulent dining room with these elephants and the crystal chandelier with the Czech crystal hanging from the roof. And I think that just adds a very interesting texture to the whole experience.
Exactly. I think also, that's the first part of the showcasing that we're doing. We're busy with other departments in the palace, bringing back elements of not belonging, but just restoring certain areas, from the outdoor dining room service, swimming pool experience. I'm born a hotelier. I know that for a fact. I'm not actually a restaurateur. And one of my dreams is to one day actually have my own hotel. I love, yes, dinner is one thing, but I love the idea to carry the story through, where you take care of them after dinner, and you can actually then take care of them when they wake up, and then you can take care of them when they eat breakfast. So to me, it's a thread, and I'm very excited to pass that down.
Well, you heard it here first. The JH Hotel is in the making. Jan, tell me, in terms of the actual experience, talking about this hotelier passion that you have, how much influence did you also have in things like crockery and cutlery, the napkins, the way the starched tablecloth sort of falls over the table? Did you have any sort of say in that as well?
Yeah, Alex, I'm not 100% normal chef. I'm a disruptor, a full-on disruptor, and that was in our first meetings with the palace. Guys, you need to be ready. This is not going to be easy. The flowers that goes on the table, the chairs that needs to be reupholstered. How do you feel in this space? What music are we listening to? The crockery we sourced, the silver got resilvered, plated, everything. So my team luckily supports me. I've got an incredible team that tells these stories and find all of these things with me. But yeah, we were pretty much in there from the floors. Even we lifted and changed the floors straight through to the tablecloths. And it is a challenge to keep consistency. It's not a small restaurant. I'm used to 28 seats. That's my speciality, because you're so in control of the storytelling process. So this is a very new and exciting project to show that you can tell a story with so many systems in place, if that makes sense.
Amazing. Well, full circle moment. Jan Hendrik van der Westhuizen bringing the lost ingredients to life at the Palace of the Lost City. And Jan, it's been such a pleasure having you on the Sandton Times Hour.
Yeah, Alex, it's been a great pleasure.
The best of Sandton and beyond.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
I was down in Cape Town a few weeks ago on assignment covering a car launch and managed to squeeze in one or two visits to share with you across the Sandton Times universe, if it's on the web, on social media, our mobile app, the weekly mailer, or of course during the Sandton Times Hour. And if you find yourself down in Cape Town, you may want to pay a visit to Iron Steak and Scala. The former being a place for meat lovers, whereas the latter is something for those who seek all things Italian. Now, let me tell you, I discovered Iron Steak a couple of visits ago, and it probably does some of the best steaks and burgers I've had pretty much anywhere in the world. They have a great selection of different cuts. Their Wagyu cuts are obviously absolutely fantastic. And they do a Wagyu burger special on a Wednesday. So if you find yourself in Cape Town on a Wednesday, go pay Iron Steak a visit. They do a fantastic burger special down there, and the burger is just wonderful. They do have a happy hour most of the days of the week, so if that's not your vibe, then you can go try some cocktails And I must tell you, it comes highly recommended. The sister restaurant, which is just around the corner called Scala, is incredible for a whole different reason. They do freshly made pasta and Italian cuisine. And if that's your style, well, I'm telling you, it won't disappoint. And I recommend that you go hungry because their dishes are really great. So between the steak and the Italian, I'm sure you're going to find something to enjoy in that part of town. Then I went to go visit the newly opened Canopy by Hilton Cape Town Longkloof, which is a very long name for a very beautiful hotel. I was very impressed with this new space. As part of the Sandton Times, you get to see and experience quite a few things in the search for whatever the latest and greatest is. And especially with hotels, there's so many new openings happening. There's an influx of developments happening in Cape Town, especially in the hospitality space. What I liked about the Canopy by Hilton Cape Town Longkloof is it's fabulous decor. It's got some great art. They've really made it vibey. It's not your average sort of grey, black, white sort of building. It's got this beautiful red brick facade, and then inside they've really gone all out, giving it a very international feel, but also a very local feel, and they've blended that very nicely together. It's really stand out and very funky and very fun. Then it's in a great area with loads of restaurants and stores in walking distance, and that's something that I always look out for when I go to a hotel or book a hotel. I like the fact that there's other options because there's only so much you can eat and drink at a hotel. And then if you're stuck in a hotel that's in the middle of nowhere, then you are very limited or you end up having the same meals over and over again. Whereas here, you're very close to all the action of the area. I mean, you've got a myriad of restaurants to walk to, a myriad of supermarkets to visit, other stores, other things to do. And I think that really makes it a really great location. There's some more developments happening. I believe they're going to be opening a Tasha's around the corner soon. And there's also a gourmet deli that's coming along. So that's really another tick. And then the rooms. They're very spacious. They're well kitted out with all the essentials you could ask for. An espresso coffee machine, nice big bathrooms, all the charging ports and workspaces you need. And what I also really enjoy as somebody who drinks a lot of water is that they have water refilling stations on tap on each floor, and they serve both still and sparkling water. What more can I say? I mean, that's just done. So I really enjoyed that visit, and the breakfast is very sound. They've got a nice spread. I think they're finding their feet in terms of the food and beverage offering as they've just opened, but I think there's some great plans in the pipeline, and very impressive visual common areas, especially the conferencing. There's also some sort of relaxation lounge, sort of like a sanctuary where you can also work and have meetings. And I must say, certainly worth a visit if you're planning a trip down to Cape Town. If you want to read the full review and get some more pictures, they're also up on the Sandton Times website.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
And as we head into the second half of the Sandton Times Hour, my name is Alexander Leitner. And if there's anything that sounded good during the show this week, but you didn't get all the details, you can head onto the website, visit sandtontimes.co.za and get a detailed breakdown in the show notes that we try and upload as fast as we can, depending on how much content there is to upload, because sometimes there's quite a bit to get through. And of course, you can also get more of the Sandton Times on social media at Sandton Times. And then also our exclusive WhatsApp line for the Sandton Times, 084 Sandton. That's 084 726 3866. That's 084 726 3866. And feel free to send through your voice notes, text messages, and whatever else you feel like sending through. Well, it's that time of the show again when we connect with our entertainment commentator, Tat Wolfen. And Tat, I believe we're going to do a rundown of some of the movies that are coming out for this week.
Yes, I guess we are, that are coming out this weekend.
Yeah.
They have yet to be previewed to the entertainment media, so I guess they've handed over their PR to the Secret Service.
This is like a lucky packet this week. Okay. So what we're saying is we both haven't seen any of these, so we actually don't know what we're in for.
Yeah, which is really great, when they complain that people are not going to the movies enough.
Right.
So all I can do is tell you what's coming up on Friday.
Okay.
The first is is an animated movie called Chicken Hair and the Secret of the Groundhog. That's a sequel to another Chicken Hair movie, apparently.
I believe it's Chicken Hair and the Hamster of Darkness. I mean, how could we forget?
Oh, that sounds like you, dude. But anyway, the Hamster of Darkness. I must remember that when I want to verbally abuse you.
Thanks, Tat.
Okay, you're welcome. But I can tell you a little interesting thing about the studio that made the movie. They call New Wave, N-U Wave, and they started off making animated 3D shorts for these amusement park attractions, such as the one that we have at Gold Reef City, with the moving seats and stuff.
Yeah.
And so they started making those, and they made one, because those were short movies, like, 5 or 10 minutes or whatever. And the one was so popular that they expanded it into a feature film. Since then, they're now in the business of making animated feature films, so good luck to them. And I've seen their previous stuff, which has been quite fun. So this could be a good movie to take the kids to.
Right.
Chicken Hair and the Secret of the Groundhog.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, we got something for the kids. All right. Then what else have we got lined up?
Then we have a thing called London Calling, which initially I thought might be a documentary or a biopic about the Clash, but it isn't.
Okay.
It looks like a kind of a fun comedy action movie starring Josh Duhamel, who's, I always enjoy his presence on screen, and it's to do with hitmen and, I don't know, babysitters, babysitting the boss's kid or whatever. So again, I can't tell you anything about it because the movie hasn't been previewed to us, but it looks as though it could be an entertaining night out. Comedy thriller.
All right. Okay. And then there's one more coming out as well.
And this one looks as though it's strictly for the youth crowd, speaking of people born in the new millennium. It's called The Threesome, okay?
Okay.
And I'll read the synopsis here. When a young man's crush leads him into an unexpected threesome, he thinks it's his ultimate fantasy come true. But when the fantasy ends, all three are left with sobering consequences, forcing them to be responsible for their actions. Did you like that?
Tat, it sounds almost as probably the most gripping thing we're going to get from this lineup, because once again, also something that we haven't seen in advance. So we're having to go with whatever we can find.
Yeah, and I suspect that my dramatic synopsis reading is possibly the most exciting version of the movie. But there it is, and if you're in the sort of youth market and all that kind of stuff, then that could be a thing. It looks as though it's sort of 20s, 30s kind of material. Yeah.
Tat, not really the most overwhelming lineup of movies at this point. Is it one of those things where a lot of the big movie studios are now holding back for their big releases closer to sort of the festive season, the holiday period? Because, I mean, we're into September now. So, I mean, November, December is around the corner.
Yeah, I think they are doing that. There are discrepancies between their holidays and our holidays. For example, our school holidays differ from theirs. They have Thanksgiving weekend, which is, I mean, Thanksgiving is about as big as Christmas is in the US. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's actually quite weird, isn't it? Because they have these two like immense holidays right next to one another. But unlike South Africans, it doesn't take them 2 months to come down from Christmas. You know, they have Christmas. You might have like another day or two maybe off work, and then you're back to work, dude. You know, there's no messing about in the US. But yeah, so I think they are holding on to stuff, because we do know that the big Christmas attraction this year is going to be the third in the Avatar series.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's obviously going to make a lot of money. And I'm not such a fan of the Avatar stories as much as I am of Mr. Cameron's 3D, because he is a master of 3D. He's released a documentary about the Titanic in 3D. He's made a number of 3D movies, and he really shoots his movies carefully. And a lot of the stuff, certainly when it involves human beings, is shot in what we call native 3D, which is where you're actually shooting it with a proper 3D camera with two lenses, a left eye lens and a right eye lens. most of the 3D movies being released these days are what we call post-converted. So they're shot in 2D, and then some dude sits at a computer and, converts it into 3D. But James Cameron is a stickler when it comes to that. So I'm looking forward to seeing the third Avatar movie on a big IMAX 3D screen, or Scene Extreme at New Metro, but a big screen in 3D. But I do digress. They are re-releasing before December, though. They're going to be releasing Avatar Way of Water by way of, I suppose, prepping people for the third part.
Right.
And it's of course, that would be the excuse, but it's a nice way of squeezing a bit more box office cash out of it, I guess. But why not,
Yeah.
So people can, people will be able to see that in 3D again. Yeah, looking forward, I'm not sure that there's much that's really blowing me away. There's something interesting coming in January, I think, but I don't want to talk about that yet, because you don't want to,
That's next year's problem.
Yes, that's next year's problem.
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah.
Well, so basically, Thanksgiving weekend and then the festive season might still bring something of it, but in between, we're going to have to just do with whatever cinema does or does not serve up. And I suppose in the meantime, there's so many other options in terms of streaming and in terms of television. I know you and I wanted to get into a conversation around Showmax, because we've allocated some time for us to now sort of delve into the different streaming platforms, Showmax being one of them. But Tat, I'm afraid we've run out of time for this week, so I don't even know if we should even get this conversation started, and maybe just hold it over till next week.
That's it. Okay, I'm offended. I'm out of here, and if you're lucky, I'll be back next week. Bye.
Tat, it'd be good to have you back next week. That's Tat Wolfen, looking at all things entertainment as he does every single week.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
So this week, the spotlight turns to Kyalami Park Club, which is saddling up for the biggest dressage event of the year. It's the 2025 Toyota South African Dressage Championships. From 15 to 21 September 2025, riders and horses from across the country will compete for 4 national titles under the watchful eyes of international judges flown in from Germany. It's a celebration of precision, power, and artistry in the saddle, and for the very first time, one champion will ride away with more than a title, but also a brand new car. How's that for horsepower? Joining us now to share more about this landmark event is one of the participants, Sam Foley, and welcome to the Sandton Times Hour, Sam.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, it's good to chat all things horses. I know we've spoken about the polo extensively on the show, never about dressage. But for those who might not know, what makes dressage such a unique and prestigious discipline in the world of equestrian sports?
Well, really, I think it's the object of dressage, and it's to develop a happy, harmonious education for the horse, where a fluid-like test is ridden, a showcase of a really calm, supple, loose, and flexible horse that's confident and attentive and keen, and achieving perfection and personified understanding between rider and athlete of being the horse, would just make for a beautiful kind of ballet.
Right, so for people who kind of need to simplify that, it's essentially somebody riding a horse to music. But it seems like the horse and the rider are sort of almost doing like you say, a ballet ice skating performance of sorts.
Yes, exactly. So it's not necessarily always to music. That would be our freestyles.
Okay.
But sometimes it's just to a test that's being demonstrated for a judge.
Okay. And the horse is dressed up, the rider is dressed up, and it's all very sort of judged on the precision of the movements or the responsiveness of the horse. Just take us through that.
The horse is not necessarily dressed up, but it's groomed to perfection, beautifully plaited, and has a white saddle pad and a good neat tack. And the rider is kind of wearing almost a military kind of outfit. It's a very smart tailcoat or short jacket and black boots and white jodhpurs. So it's all very formal and proper. The horse is judged not really on its look, but more on its ability to perform each movement to the judge's satisfaction on a scale of 0 to 10, and marked out of that for each movement.
So visually, it sounds like it's gorgeous. It's quite impactful seeing the rider and the horse both perform, and obviously the way that they show up. What makes this year's edition so special? I mean, I know this is the pinnacle of the sport locally, but this year it sounds like there's a little bit more to it.
This year is Toyota South Africa Motors' 4th year sponsoring KPC. Hence, we've got the 3 international judges, which is more than we've had previously. And of course, we've got the main prize, which is the Toyota Starlet Cross, which will be given to the main or one of the champions.
What do you anticipate the international judges are going to bring to the competition this year? Because clearly that changes the dynamics a bit compared to previous years.
Yes, I'm sure they'll bring a sharp eye, their expertise and excellence for each movement, and judge super fairly, and but on an international basis. So we'll be able to be compared to the likes of other European countries, and hopefully keep that standard extremely high.
Well, nothing like German precision when it comes to equestrian sports. This should be very dynamic indeed. Tell me a little bit more about the diary for the week. What can people look forward to? I'm assuming Saturday is probably the day to be there to get the Grand Prix final insight.
Yes, so I think Saturday will be a magnificent day featuring some of the best freestyles that South Africa has to offer. And those are, of course, to music and very entertaining to watch.
From your perspective, what does it take to prepare for a week-long championship like this? I mean, you don't just show up with your horse and hope for the best. I mean, there's quite a bit that goes into this.
As a dressage rider, we are constantly working at improving our movements and just trying to get a more fluid test. So I feel as if we're always sort of ready to compete at the level at which we've been training our horse. But for this particular show, we obviously increase our training up to a month before, and then drop it dramatically so that we peak when the show is happening. We don't want to be riding and peaking too soon.
Give us a sense of what this preparation looks like. I mean, how many hours goes into this? What does it mean for the horse? What does it mean for the rider? Just take us behind the scenes here.
I think with regard to any athlete, consistency is key. So one doesn't want to over-exercise their horse and strain muscles, because that would inevitably lead to an injury. So one should ride their horse for 30 to 45 minutes a day, but consistently every day, and really focus on certain aspects of the test. Each movement should be really looked at and done and ridden to the best of the horse's ability and the rider's ability. One would have lessons with their coach in preparation and run through the test just to make sure that it's fluid. So when they present it to the judge, that there are no hiccups. And really then one would get the physio out, the chiropractor, maybe some treatments for the athlete themselves, and really just eat healthy, eat clean, and try not to overtrain.
And that's for the horse. What about the rider?
I think both horse and rider are athletes, so they should both do that.
They should both eat clean and be fit. Okay, that's good. Sam, now, do you need a particular horse for this kind of sport, or does any horse sort of, have they got the acumen to do this kind of performance?
I think that a warm blood is most suitable for dressage, as it would be considered a sport horse. However, we do have a lot of Friesians that are competing in dressage, and they do very successfully. So I really think it's dependent on the ability of the horse and whether or not it has the movement and suppleness and can really dance with its rider.
Can you breed horses for this kind of sport? I mean, is it like horse racing or any other sort of equestrian sport where you a certain build or a certain bloodline has a bigger advantage than another one?
Oh yes, definitely. So sport horses are definitely bred dependent on their sires or stallions and who you want to use, and genetics are passed down. With show jumping and dressage, both are top level sports. So these horses can be really bred specifically for dressage, just like thoroughbreds are bred for racing. We have some really good bloodlines in dressage, and it's definitely used for the advantage of the athlete.
For someone who hasn't been following the sport but might be intrigued to see what happens on Saturday, give us a little bit of history in terms of this competition. Has there been a province or a particular horse or rider that has been dominating the lineup more than others?
Yes, Western Cape have done extremely well recently, and they, although like a small part of the industry and quite far away, difficult to get to Joburg with all the quarantines and restrictions because of African horse sickness, Western Cape have really shone, and particularly a wonderful rider named Nicola Moore. She was the winner of last year's SA Adult Dressage Champs. She will be there this weekend as well with her horse Cicely.
Is this a particularly expensive sport? I mean, does it take quite a bit of investment? I mean, from a time perspective, I can imagine, but also from a monetary perspective to get to a point where you can actually compete at this level?
Yes, unfortunately, it is a very expensive sport, and the time and dedication involved is also costly in relation to the financial aspect. And just unfortunately, with the rand as low as it is in comparison to the euro and dollar, it really makes it tough for South Africans to go and compete abroad.
How would you say South Africans rank compared to the rest of the world?
Well, the rest of the world, of course, have a lot more financial backing, and they have the history of the warm blood sport horse that goes back centuries in comparison to South Africa. And South Africa is not ranked very highly. We try our best, but unfortunately, because we can't have so many athletes riding internationally, we don't really feature as prominently as some other countries.
All right, so this is the opportunity to see some of South Africa's best in action on home soil. And as I say, we're going to put all the details up on the website so you can get an idea of where you can see it. And that is the 2025 Toyota South African Dressage Championships taking place at the Kyalami Park Club. Of course, the whole week there's some activities, but it's the weekend that it all culminates, and they pick an overall victor and, of course, their horse. Sam Foley, it's been a pleasure having you on the Sandton Times Hour.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been really fun.
All right, let's wrap up another Sandton Times Hour for another week. Feel free to send through your questions and comments. Editor at sandtontimes.co.za, on email, social media at Sandton Times, the website sandtontimes.co.za, and the WhatsApp line exclusive to the Sandton Times 084 Sandton. That's 084 726 3866 084 726 3866, and feel free to send through your voice notes, text messages, and media. As always, make sure to subscribe to the podcast too on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, and all other leading digital audio platforms, and join the online digital community. Thank you to all our guests who made time to be on the show this week, and of course the team behind the scenes making things happen. A special thank you for listening, and God willing, we'll do it all again next week.
That's it for this week. Thanks for listening to the Sandton Times Hour. And if you enjoyed it, be sure to share it.